Aloka, a 2.5-year-old spotty dog, joined the foot-traveling Sangha on our journey of following the Buddha's footsteps with a full heart. He met us for the first time in the ancient capital Kolkata, India. He accompanied us to various sacred Buddhist sites, including Bodh Gaya, crossing the Niranjara River to the Forest of Ascetics, the location of Sujata offering milk rice, Venerable Mahakasapa's Cockfoot Mountain, Sarnath Deer Park in Varanasi, where the discourse, setting in motion the wheel of the Dhamma, was first delivered, Savatthi, Kosambi, Sankisa, Vaishali, Kusinara Parinibbana, Rampurwa, Lauriya, Great Stupa at Kesaria, Vikramshila, Nalanda Buddhist University, Patna, Pataliputra City, Rajagaha Gijakuta, Vulture's Peak, and to landmarks in Nepal. Kapilavathu, Stone Pillar of Buddha Konagamana, birthplace of Buddha Kakusandho, Lumbini, birthplace of Bodhisattva Siddhartha. The journey covered over 3,000 kilometers, 1,865 miles, from December 11th, 2022 to March 31st, 2023. The Sangha encountered thousands of dogs during the 110-day journey of following the Buddha's footsteps. Some barked like thunder, piercing the sky and rattling the earth. Some stood silently watching, and some bared their teeth and growled, ready to attack the monks. However, amidst this sea of canines, one spotty dog appeared to have been awaiting our arrival. As soon as he caught sight of our earthy yellow robes, he joyfully joined the Sangha, and just like that, accompanied us throughout the journey. It was as if our meeting had been predetermined by some karmic connection from the past. Since joining the foot-traveling Sangha, a new chapter of life has opened for Spotty. He left behind his birthplace, homeland, and a series of gloomy days without a home, family, or relatives. Now he traversed new paths and reached new destinations every day, free from the struggles of rolling around street corners, scavenging for food in the garbage, and seeking shelter from aggressive wild dogs. I named the spotty dog Aloka because the lives of animals are indeed a series of dark days. Without wisdom, they cannot judge right from wrong, create merit, or observe precepts. They merely survive on instinct and violence. Once born into the animal realm, it is not easy to be reborn as a human again. Now, Aloka has chosen to follow the Buddha's footsteps and retrace the ancient path, a wise choice that may have been sown by past karma. I hope he finds the light of wisdom on this journey and is reborn in the next life as a person with abundant wealth, who knows how to make offerings, observe precepts, and has correct understanding and sharp wisdom. May he head towards the path of enlightenment, be free from suffering and the cycle of birth, aging, illness, and death, and attain the supreme Nibbana. Aloka means light and is also one of the 10 kasina objects in samatha, absorption meditation, by which a person with wisdom can realize the 4 levels of form sphere jhana, serving as the foundation for vipassana meditation, leading to the cessation of rebirth. From the flat plains to the high mountains, Aloka relied on his feet and strength to climb up near the top of Cockfoot Mountain, where Venerable Mahakassapa entered deep absorption meditation. However, Aloka was afraid to enter the dark crevice that led to the top. Instead, he lay down in front of the entrance, watching the monks one by one enter, feeling helpless. Moved by Aloka's plight and determination to walk alongside the monks to the top, I carried him across the crevices of the mountain to pay respects to the stupa of Venerable Mahakassapa. Aloka's joy upon reaching the top erased all my aches and pains. Passing through new and strange places, Aloka got lost many times in the sea of people, where it was so crowded that even the warm clothes on his body were stolen, leaving only the cloth collar around his neck. He spent long, cold nights in the midst of hungry wild dogs and may have suffered many attacks and injuries. When he saw me again, he happily ran to bite my hand and wept bitterly. To make matters worse, he was attacked by German shepherds and tried to flee while sustaining leg injuries. I followed him to a corner of a crowded intersection, but so many eyes were focused on us. A kind lady even offered me money while I was sitting there hugging and protecting him. I smiled and thought to myself that both teacher and student were no different from real beggars. After getting lost a few times, Aloka perhaps learned from experience and always stood by us. He had been with the Sangha through the freezing winter, drenched rainy nights and frigid foggy days. Winter passed and land parched and thirsty for drops of water. The roads were like red fire burning the skin. Yet, with those 4 little bare feet, Aloka trampled them all, whether through thorny forests, sharp and rough rocks, broken pieces of earthenware, or shards of glass. Yet, with those 4 little bare feet, he patiently walked through them all. Even after all these, Aloka endured a horrific accident when he was hit by a car on a foggy morning. After that, he was chased and bitten by multiple groups of wild dogs with fierce fangs, causing injuries all over his body and forcing him to hobble on 3 legs until the end of his journey. For an extended period, he walked 50 kilometers every day, was constantly tired, had insufficient food and water, bathed in dirty water, waded through mud, and endured bites from mosquitoes, fleas, and other insects. His condition became critical as he fell seriously ill and seemingly reached his end. His body was sometimes ice cold and emitted a foul smell, and his breath was weak as if it were his last. His nasal discharge was thick and sometimes yellow or green, dripping nonstop, forcing him to breathe through his mouth. Aloka could not eat or drink, and vomiting day and night made him even more sluggish, making it impossible for him to stand up. I carried Aloka in my arms as I went from house to house and stall to stall, searching for a doctor to treat him along the long street. Finally, we found a life-saving doctor behind the right door. Aloka received 4 injections, causing him even more pain. When the doctor administered the first injection in his buttock, Aloka tried to scream, but his screams were faint. Startled, the doctor pulled out the needle and quickly injected the rest of the medicine, leaving Aloka exhausted and panting in my arms. I couldn't help but felt pity as I held and petted him. However, the painful injections only helped Aloka lower his fever for 1 night, and the subsequent oral medication didn't even help much. We took Aloka to the 2nd and 3rd doctors, and although more injections were given, his condition remained unchanged. With the 4th doctor, he was injected so much that even the needle bent, causing Aloka to scream miserably, but it did not cure his sickness. Nevertheless, Aloka's condition improved slightly, and he could eat and drink a little. Unfortunately, he threw up in our tent that night. Despite his illness, on a foggy morning, Aloka refused to continue riding and jumped out of the moving vehicle, chasing the group step by step until he met me. As each day passed, Aloka's condition worsened, but fortunately, we were only 60 kilometers away from a big city. We took him to a big hospital for x-rays and diagnosis. This time, the doctor could identify the disease, administer medicine, and prescribe the proper treatment for severe pneumonia. The doctor said it was lucky that Aloka received treatment in time, and I felt a sense of relief. These days, seeing Aloka's health improve day by day, we were all filled with happiness and joy. It was truly remarkable how this small being's strong will enabled him to overcome the brink of death, leaving us all in admiration and awe. During our journey, there were times when Aloka would stop and wait for me, even biting my cane to urge me forward. Together, we climbed to the top of the mountain to reach Satapani Cave, also known as the Mahakasapa Cave, where the first Buddhist council was held. We then went to the top of Gijhakuta Mountain, Vulture's Peak, to pay respects to the perfume chamber of the Buddha's residence. Both teacher and student shared a small nest at night, regardless of whether the weather was hot or cold. Additionally, upon hearing about my decision to bring Aloka to the United States, some compassionate Buddhists generously offered to contribute towards the necessary expenses. The monks also praised and admired this act of kindness, and I am grateful. It is impossible to convey the deep karmic connections Aloka has formed with us in words. I sincerely hope that we will continue to care for and protect him. As it is said, all sentient beings in the 3 realms and 6 paths were once our parents and will be our relatives in the future. As our journey neared its end, Aloka became friendlier and closer to the monks, seemingly aware that it was time to part ways. His face looked tired and sad, lacking vitality and energy, evoking a sense of sadness in all of us. However, we could only imagine what Aloka was genuinely feeling. Finally, Ajahn Adon and I said goodbye to the Sangha and took Aloka and Sukho to New Delhi. Before we left, the monks came out to bid farewell to Aloka, playing and caressing him with great affection. Witnessing their love for Aloka brought me immense joy. As we drove away, the sight of the monks waving goodbye to Aloka slowly disappeared from our view. After more than 20 hours on the road, we finally arrived in New Delhi. We completed the necessary paperwork for Sukho to return to Thailand with Bhante Adoln and for Aloka to come with me to the US. After days of back and forth, Sukho finally arrived in Thailand to join the Sangha. Meanwhile, finding a suitable place for Aloka to stay had been challenging for us in New Delhi. The procedures for Aloka to fly to the US involved numerous obstacles, and we had to take care of the quarantine procedures and expenses on our own. However, there were still obstacles on the transportation side, including fees, costs, and documentation, and even the airline we chose, Qatar Airways. Despite these challenges, we persisted in trying to get Aloka on the road and bring him to the US. After intensive days of working with Carrie, my pet, to handle the procedures for Aloka, he could finally board the plane. However, his face looked weary, sad, and contemplative, as if there were thousands of things he wanted to say. Did Aloka know that he would not be able to see his teacher for a month? I had prepared warm coverings and an assortment of toys for him, but the airline refused to transport them. At 10 a.m. on Saturday, April 8, 2023, Carrie, my pet, picked up Aloka from Farmhouse Inn in New Delhi to take him to the airport. They didn't allow me to tag along. Sitting in the car and talking with Aloka for a while, I got out of the car and Aloka nervously ran back and forth on the bench, looking up at me through the rear glass. But his eyes seemed to ask me,